This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for How to Super Age with Elise Marie Collins. And, you know, after Thanksgiving and now going into Christmas, I'm not sure how I feel. I'm already dragging. So hopefully between you and your guests, I'm going to get some inspirational tips and, start to get alive again. So welcome back.
Yes, I think that you are going to love our guest today, Karen, and we can definitely hit her up for some tips and tricks on how to get through that kind of holiday, slump.
Yep.
I'll call it. So I'm going to introduce our guest today. Oh, first, before I do that, I'm just going to hold up my book. I'm just going to keep it brief today. How to Super Age is my book. It's filled with tips and tricks that I like and I use on how to super age. And aging is really another way of talking about living, because if you're living, you're aging. And we all, depending on where you are, what stage in your life, if you're older, there's still plenty of living to be lived. And I just like to give hope to everyone, including myself, because I think there's not enough inspiration for aging well, helping those maybe 20 years older than us, or even 20 years younger than us, because all generations really need to age well. So I filled this book with tips, tricks, and stories to inspire you. Now we're going to hear even more tips and tricks from our guest. I'm going to introduce her. Today we have Carole Martin, and she is owner and founder of Yoga on the Canal, located in beautiful downtown Chesapeake City, Maryland. She's a certified holistic health and wellness coach who specializes in supporting those struggling with rheumatoid arthritis, as well as alleviating stress and anxiety. Her passion is to inspire and support her community to reach ultimate health goals through health coaching and the power of yoga. I hope we can be part of her community after this podcast.
I love it.
As we connect our mind, body, and spirit on and off our mats, we can live the dream life full of energy with clear minds and abundance of love and joy for a lifetime, making our community a kinder and more connected place. Wow, Carole, I'm really excited to have you. Is there anything else you want to tell us? Maybe tell us a little bit about your city and then anything else that we might have missed in that bio.
That's great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled. I loved your book. I loved all the tips. I still reread it, and I will keep it close by me for a resource forever, probably. I have maybe every 10, 20 pages earmarked. They're great tips. Really, they are, Elise. And the pictures are the stories are wonderful. So a little bit more about Chesapeake City. It is a historic town. It is very small. It's on a canal, the Chesapeake Canal. We're actually at the top of the Chesapeake Bay. I'm sure you know more about the bay than you do. And our canal between runs ships up and down the canals, a man-made canal from Baltimore, the port of Baltimore, up to Philly. It is, gosh, I wish I knew. I don't know how many years old it is. Anyway, I live in Chesapeake City, but it's outside of downtown Chesapeake City. And when I first became certified, actually, it was even a little bit before that, I had this dream, this focus. It was actually my reality that I would someday be a yoga studio owner, and it would have to be in Chesapeake City. It's just so beautiful and quaint, and the people are lovely. And that dream came true. And now I found a little rental spot. So I have my studio in downtown Chesapeake City, and I'm just so proud to share my knowledge and my willpower, my know-how, whatever it is that the clients come back for, teaching them yoga. I have a massage therapist that has a little room in the back for massages. You schedule through her, It's all on my website. And I also have an acupuncturist that comes in every Friday, all day Friday, and the clients can schedule with her as well. My classes vary anywhere from a yin class, 4 or 5 days a week. I offer bar with a different teacher. A bar is a low impact, sort of aerobic, sort of Pilates with a little bit of yoga thrown in. It's a very, very good class. Kelly's an excellent teacher. And then I have a couple.
Oh,
I'm
I was
sorry.
going to say, I don't know if you teach online, but if not, I mean, and I'd also love to hear how yoga, and especially the yoga that you're teaching in your studio, can help people with as they age. And I know you know a lot about how it can help with rheumatoid arthritis, which runs in my family. And
Oh,
I don't,
wow.
I'm not going to say I have it, but I definitely get pain in my joints, my texting thumb.
Yes, yes. So I have a story and which led me to yoga and then eventually teaching. I love to garden, and as I was gardening this one spring, summer, you weed and you nurture your garden and you plant and you harvest and you're never stop using your hands. Well, about August or September of that year, I wreaked havoc right where you're saying, Elise, right at the bottom of the thumb, the wrists. It was in my fingertips. My fingers are kind of crookedy, from all of the damage to the joints. And I was on a vacation with my husband, actually, and I hadn't been eating very well. And I knew that I was not being good to my body. And I twisted my hip. I had fallen off this, we were on a cruise ship to go from Fort Myers to Key West, and got off of it, just landed in the wrong way and blew out my hip. And I was in dire pain the 2 or 3 days that we were in Key West. And as soon as I came back to Maryland, to my home, I went to my doctor. He is a neck, back, and hip doctor, sort of like a chiropractor, but just really knew what he was talking about. Anyway, we discussed my ailment, and he did one of those alignments and popped it right back into place. And he goes, "Carole, why aren't you doing yoga? You need to do yoga." And instead of writing a script with some meds that I would be still on probably 7 years later, this gentleman sent me to yoga. Went to my first yoga class the next day, and the rest is history. So I fell in love with it. And actually within 3 or 4 weeks of going 3 or 4 times a day, 3 or 4 times a week, the pain alleviated, and my hip pain was already almost back to, my hips are completely back to normal. And I mean, the fact is, you just got to keep going. You really have to keep going, eat right. I'm repeating your book, telling you all of the, eat green, look out for the organic, vegetables, grass-fed beef. It's so important, because whatever agriculture today is putting into our food products, we don't want in our bodies. Then I take it to my studio. I have a great class called Detox. And I do a lot of twisting and turning and getting into a pretzel and coming back out of it and stretching. And what's that doing is alleviating all those toxins out of your body. You drink plenty of water afterwards, and it comes all out in your waste. You just keep moving. I can't, I love yoga as the keep moving technique, because we're connecting our mind with our bodies, and with our breath. And as long as we keep doing that, you are releasing those toxins that are inside of you for whatever reason. It's kind of difficult in today's society, in today's world, to escape all of those toxins. They're in our products. In the morning routine, women ingest hundreds of toxins from all of our products. It's actually quite scary. So I have several clients sign up for this detox, and that's exactly what we do through the whole hour of moving, bending, twisting. We come into a pretzel in several of the moves, postures, and we come back out of it. And I hope that it's helping them alleviate their arthritis pain like it did mine. You do have to stick with it. So there's some of my tips. just keep moving.
I love that because it's really coming back to why we call it a yoga. I'm a yoga teacher too, in case anyone's
Yes.
tuning in for the first time or doesn't know me,
Yes.
but why we call it a practice. And I also, I mean, what a great doctor. I think if you're in
Yeah.
if you're in the Maryland area, like contact Carole, find out who her doctor is. Well, also that gardening, what occurs to me is gardening is a practice, and a different kind of practice, but you are practicing. And so it seems like that might have helped you just go into the yoga practice, because it sounds like you took to it really well, and maybe it was just the right thing for you. And it sounds almost karmic the way your doctor recommended it.
It really is. I'm truly blessed how the universe brought it all together. Gardening, as you stated in your book, is also very good, mindful, therapeutic. You are playing in Mother Earth, anything with the ground, digging up that dirt. Believe it or not, there is mind opening to all of that. It helps you connect to the earth. It helps you appreciate when you plant a seed and you water it and you nurture it and you take care of it, it actually grows. So yeah, that gardening is huge. Yes.
Yeah. I love that too, because in my classes, I always have my students create an intention, and I liken it to planting a seed, and yoga is also, if we think of the intentions and what we put out there, we're tending the soil, we're making the conditions great for getting, it's not like all about like, I want this and I'm going to get it, but like aligning with, which
Right.
it sounds like you did when you were going to a doctor who says go to yoga, and then you go, and that's aligned action.
It really is. And I didn't even know it. I still feel that I had a push, I had a shove that led me in that direction to be helped. When I felt so bad when we were visiting Key West, and so it not only affects your belly or your head or whatever it is that's you're hurting, my hands and my hip, it affects your whole mind. You eat that nasty stuff and it gives you nasty thoughts. And I love, just recently I've learned out of my yoga, YTT, my yoga teacher training, is what we think is what we are. And when you're not so good at thoughts, you're talking negative thoughts about yourself. Whereas I had a great mantra I said in my last podcast that I just love, and I want to share it with you. It started, I can open a yoga studio in downtown Chesapeake City. I will open a yoga studio in downtown Chesapeake City. Watch me open a yoga studio in downtown Chesapeake City. You talk to yourself. That's a nice intention right there. It's a mantra, but you use it in a positive manner and positive things will happen. Maybe not right away. Like I had to go through my fingers and then my hips and then the doctor to get to yoga, but it all does work out.
Carole, you're saying something that all of us need, whether it's a physical, emotional pain, or just wanting to make a change. We all think it's so hard. As Elise knows, I went to a yoga class. It was not the right class for me, but I picked up just enough things in that yoga class. And that was about the movement and, trying to just release those negative thoughts. And so even if you do it for a minute while you're standing in the line at the grocery store,
Right.
I mean, how many of us get upset? There's 3 people in front of us. We're never going to get out. We're never going to make our next appointment. Well, you're here. So take the time, and that's what I love about how Elise does this podcast. We're not telling people, yes, you have to go to a studio. You have to go buy that yoga mat. You have to buy the right yoga pants. You can do this on your own, but having a guide like yourself or Elise just makes it so much easier.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, it's
Sure.
it's so true. If you lead them there and you just do what Elise and I love to do and share that with everyone. Yes, I appreciate your words. They're
Thank
very
you.
good.
what was it like to have a studio if you did have your studio? I mean, COVID is still happening. I know we heard a little bit. It's around Thanksgiving, just after Thanksgiving in 2021. If you're watching this, listening to this in the future,
Yeah.
it will be the future, but if it's far off. So tell us a little bit about, how did you get through that time? What happened during COVID? Because I mean, our studio community in the Bay Area, I mostly teach in San Francisco. I live in the East Bay, and it was just devastated. So many studios closed. All the studios I
Yes.
actually taught in person just shut down.
Yes, yes, and it did do that as well here. Actually, COVID was in the middle of my YTT, and we had to start doing Zoom to finalize all of the final process. And I still had this dream of still opening the yoga studio. There were studios and fitness centers and restaurants that were closed during the whole entire process of while I was doing YTT. That ended and started opening back up, I'd say June of 2020. And I was at the restaurant that I love in Chesapeake City, and it's close to where the studio is. And I was walking through town when it first opened. And there was a gentleman he lives upstairs. My landlord lives upstairs, and he was trying to rent the bottom floor for over a year and couldn't do it because COVID was around. July came and went. I got certified. I went back. I took the number down. Things were starting to open. People were in the streets. People were gathering. Now we had masks. You had to take your temperature. You were still 6 feet apart, even at the bar stool or the table. You know, they take out every other table in the restaurant. We were still in that process in July and August of 2020. And I stopped by the Now studio and I called the number and I said, is your space still for rent? And he said, during COVID. And he said, I had it for retail. And I said, well, is yoga retail? And he said, it is now.
Yeah.
He was having problems renting his space. And of course, there was nowhere where I could go. So we made that connection. We did follow through. I did not open until the end of September, where everyone was pretty much back out. I did have a couple of people that were very standoffish. I had a little air purifier. Everyone had to wear their masks into the building, go to their mat. And once they got to their mat during the process of yoga, during the whole class, we took off our masks. I took their temperature when they first walked in. They were all of the CDC regulations that you had to abide by anyway, but I wanted them to feel warm and fuzzy in the yoga studio that, and of course I have twice as many mats now as I did in 2020 because we had to go 6 feet apart. The good thing about yoga is you are on your own mat. It's not like aerobics where you're going to turn to the other, and I felt comfortable in knowing that. And it did grow. It was a struggle. I'm not going to lie. I did have a grand opening and we all wore masks. The mayor came up and cut the big ribbon. It was really, really fun. My kids and grandchildren were there and that was really great. But it was a little bit of a struggle at first. This year, I celebrated 1 year in September of 2021 and I had a retreat. No one wore masks. No one was 6 feet apart. I could fill the studio. Of course, we were outside most of the time. It was a beautiful weekend and we did our nature walks and forest meditation. And we did paddleboard yoga, which was a great meditation as well as yoga on a paddleboard in the middle of water. And that was beautiful. So it was initially, it was difficult. I won't lie, but it did progress. I do have to share with you, I'm a little worried now that we're getting into the colder months. We just celebrated Thanksgiving with friends and family again. We're headed into Christmas. So I think I'm going to be mindful and go back to wearing masks, just to be cautious, because you can never be too cautious. I'm not really a fan of teaching yoga during Zoom, maybe because I was brand new and I really didn't know the ins and outs of it. So I don't know what's going to happen, God forbid, if it should spread and get back to where we were before. So yeah, we're praying for the best. We're hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I understand. I mean, Bay Area, our fitness, I didn't start teaching till in person. I'm teaching one class now in person. And that
Oh,
started
wow.
just a couple months ago. Yeah. Everything was pretty much closed down. So, but I have been teaching on Zoom, and I understand some people, I mean, there's definitely benefits and drawbacks. And the benefit I found, well, it's easy. You have to like make yourself presentable to do yoga, have an area, that's the thing. Sometimes you don't have an area, or it's difficult if you live in a small space, you have a family. People, yoga teachers and other fitness instructors have struggled with that.
Yes.
And then also, one thing I do like is that people can join from all time zones. So I've literally had some students that I knew from the Bay Area that live on the East Coast or live now even in Europe. And so that has been fun, but it's not for everybody. And I understand that too. And I think it's, as teachers of anything, just being comfortable
Yeah.
with how you're putting out your teaching. You shouldn't force yourself. Just like we're all to age well, we shouldn't force I don't believe in forcing ourselves to do anything that's not right, because it's like it's not aligned. If you're forcing yourself, it's not gonna stick.
Right. And I do believe I did force myself. So in September of 2020, it was okay. October, we got a couple of clients. Actually, they were all very good friends, and we were together a lot of the time anyway, whether we're doing yoga or socializing. And I got an emergency phone call right before Christmas last year. My parents were failing in their health. They live in Florida. So I had to pack up everything, including the studio, and head south. And I tried to go on Zoom, and I sent the link to the girls that were already clients in the studio, and they all shut me down. Oh, I'm not doing yoga. And so it really wasn't just me. I will say they're all my age. I don't know that even age had anything to do with it, but they were not comfortable with doing it. Zoom is advantageous. You have more clients that you can reach out and embrace, and but it just wasn't for me. And it wasn't for my clients at that time. When I came back in January, we resumed, and we did fabulous in 2021. So
I love it.
My sister-in-law last week mentioned she takes a yoga class, and because of COVID now has to do it on Zoom. In the beginning, she didn't like it, because she said she liked the fact of being able to know that there were other people near her and she could feel their energy. And she said when she does it at home, my brother, her husband, is usually sitting in the other room yelling at the news. So she said she had to tell him that this was her time, and either he had to leave the house or he had to be quiet. And she said that was difficult, but she said now it's working out perfectly. She works a long day, and she said she doesn't have to worry about running to the studio, getting there on time, but she is looking forward to it reopening so that she could have a combination. So I think you're right. It's what you're comfortable with. And if you don't use Zoom regularly for something like this, it may feel, disconnected.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I love that. I know you have a granddaughter. I don't know how many grandchildren you have, but one granddaughter. I just want to know, tell us a little bit about her, because I'm wondering what she wants to be when she grows up. I heard a rumor.
She was so funny. So at the time, I'm trying to think, was she 4? She was 4, because now she's 6, and she just turned 6. So anyway, I did the grand opening with the yoga studio. The kids came. I have 4 grandchildren. She is second in line. And we were setting up our mats and playing with the kids as people came in to buy whatever. I sold a 6-day pass at the grand opening, and I was kind of tending to that. And at the time, right before I opened the studio, I was babysitting her almost every day. So 4 or 5 days a week. And we bonded. We were very close. And I went up to babysit her after the grand opening the following. She goes, Nona, you know what I decided I want to be when I grow up? And I'm, okay, what do you want to be? I want to be a yoga instructor with my own studio. And I thought, what a great thing. I just thought that if I did anything for the rest of my life, that was good. One really, really good deed. She also wants to be a superhero. So this is the type of kid we're dealing with. So, but she's fascinating. That was incredible that she had picked up. I just thought they were playing in the corner on the mats. You know, I didn't even think it registered to her. Now her mom is a yogi through and through, like has always done yoga, always loved yoga. So Quinn already has her yoga mat. And, you know, they do yoga together sometimes, and, you know, so she is already aware of the yoga. So, but for her to come up and say, I'm going to own my own studio.
I love that.
Bless your heart, sweetheart. So yeah, I thought that was really cool.
That's amazing. I love that story.
That was fun.
Do you have any tips, deliverable via audio for anyone suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, even something, it doesn't have to necessarily be yoga, but what would you give to our audience, since many, including myself, I'm not diagnosed, but I know it runs in my family, and I get joint pain if I'm not careful and don't do my yoga practice.
Sure. Yoga is very good for rheumatoid arthritis, but the key in yoga that makes it so good is stretching. So you don't necessarily have to do your yoga pose if you don't do yoga or you don't really want to be physical about it. Just stretch. And by that, I mean completely stretching your whole entire body from one part to the other, whether you're going to fold forward, whether you're going to be down on your lower back and pulling your head, pulling your knees up, just stretch, open your legs wide open, just stretch like you've never been touched out that far ever before. They say if you stretch that from one end of your body all the way down into the other end, you are really doing something with all of your joints. You're loosening everything. So arthritis is, I really don't know what it's from. Mine was aggravated because I used it too much. They say arthritis is from poor eating habits, as well as just sitting on the couch doing nothing. Your joints get all kinked up. I mean, think about it. You're sitting there and you're doing nothing. You're not moving. So I guess another tip is to keep moving. Really, really important, I believe, is the food we eat. We are what we eat. I believe that's a quote in your book as well, but my mom told me from the time I was 5, you are what you eat. Eat an apple a day and you won't see the doctor all the time. It's just fresh fruits and vegetables always. Watch for your pesticides. So you really want to eat the dirty dozen. The fruits and vegetables that don't have as many pesticides. I've mentioned it before, grass-fed beef, that agriculture, what they're doing to our farming is just, from what I understand, it can't be helped, but we really need to start being focused on what we eat. If you don't want to twist and turn, go for a walk. Just keep moving. That's, we just visited Florida a couple of weeks ago, my husband and I, and of course, it's so inspiring because the sun is out full blast. It's 78 degrees. You're not really working, although we both did. We run a construction company as well. So he would work till like noon or 1 p.m. and I would do my marketing or what I needed to do on the computer. But in the morning, I got up, I meditated, I journaled, I did yoga every morning, and I walked for my 3 miles. And it wasn't that I forced myself to do it. I just did because the sun is so inspiring. It's amazing. But I also meditate to help alleviate the pain. I say my intentions, my mantras. It's not just yoga, it's the whole group of yoga, it's the whole family. There's so many facets of yoga and what we do to stretch our whole bodies and stay pain-free.
I love that.
Did I answer your question?
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. And I think you gave a lot of value in that answer. Also, I know you work with anxiety, any calming practices, especially as you mentioned, like we're going into winter. I mean, the holidays can bring up anxious feelings and thoughts and memories, patterns. I call them patterns because we all have these patterns, these kind of like the thoughts, the patterns
Sure.
cause the thoughts. Anything for anxiety or anything else for mental
Um,
health?
Actually, again, food. There is a lot of food that can stress you out, that can, for me, it's bread. Bread, I guess carbs. Carbs really. So we had this fantastic Thanksgiving dinner. I did stand in the kitchen for about 8 straight hours and do that. So it might have been physical, but it's the carbs. They go to your head and they say, wow, wow. I mean, bad things. And that's when my joints start hurting all over again. So just watch your carbs. And you may be sensitive to another type of food. Mine's carbs. Mine's definitely bread. I burn sage. Sage is to alleviate those negative thoughts, those negative feelings. You have a negative friend that you're just done with, that always brings you down. She or he seems to just, get on your last nerve. However, you still are friends. Why? And sage I love burning sage almost every morning before I start any of my classes. I burn my sage. I have a couple candles going, and that really just helps me get started every day. And that's another thing is meditate with candlelight. So if you stare into a flame, it's the most fascinating thing. So stare into a flame as like you're mesmerized by it, and then close your eyes and you still have the flame going on, and it brings everything down. Breathing is a great stress reliever. So it calms your central nervous system. If you breathe in for 4, and when you exhale, your exhale is longer than your inhale. And it brings everything into perspective. Everything calms down. And if it doesn't do it for the first 3 or 4 times, keep doing it.
Yeah.
The people get anxious by thinking about meditation, and you don't have to meditate for an hour. It's really not necessary. I know a lot of people do it. You can meditate for 5 minutes and feel better for the rest of your day. I've done it. It's fabulous. And then when you graduate from 5 minutes, go to 10 minutes, and so on and so forth. I just believe on just keep on going. Don't push yourself like we've discussed before, but you can meditate for 5 minutes and feel amazing.
Yeah, I love that because if one forces themselves to meditate, it backfires because it just makes you more anxious because if you're like completely amped up and you try to calm yourself, it does not work. And a great thing is that we do have YouTube now, and YouTube has so many different practices. I mean, sometimes it can be sorting through, but there's a lot you can get that's out there and is free. So I'd encourage listeners to check that out. Yeah. Is there any other tips for aging and living well that you like to recommend? I'm imagining, I don't know if it's all generations that go to your studio, but you definitely had your granddaughter at your studio. But living well, to me, that's aging well, because that's why it's so great that your granddaughter is so tuned in to that yoga lifestyle, because that's I think of it as a trajectory that's like
Absolutely.
we're shifting the youth trajectory. We're helping the older adults, any age. We're just kind of shifting it so that we can live and age better.
Yeah, I do want to tell you, I forgot to tell you that I shared your book and a couple of pointers in your book, and one of them was the brain. My studio's clientele is probably 55 and older. And I'm not sure if I attracted that because of my age. I hope I'm not keeping the youth out. There are some young ones. I mean, there's a lot of young yogis, but ours is really, we focus on arthritis. We focus on pain. We focus on the breathing techniques to alleviate pain. So yeah, I did share a lot of quotes and the stories in your book. And they ran out, and one downloaded it, one bought it. I mean, it's good stuff. But the only tips I really have is just keep moving. You know, whether it be yoga, it doesn't have to be yoga. You know, you could do aerobics or yoga for the 55 and older is slower. And it's still a great exercise. You're moving your body. You've got your body flow going. You're connecting your mind with your brain. If you can do aerobics, God bless you. I just can't do it anymore. I just don't want to put my body through that stress. But I think the key for super aging is to keep moving, try new things. I love that you said that in there. I did not try a new language, but I feel that I tried yoga. That was my new exercise, and I kept at it. And of course, yogis, they just keep growing. There's so much out there. I went to just being YTT certified. Then I wanted to be a yin teacher because the ladies, again, were coming to me saying, do you have anything to slow down, to release my stress? How about my achy, painful joints? So I signed up for the yin certification, and then I became certified for yin. So we do keep progressing, and we do keep moving. I think that's key to super aging. I just think that that's key, is to just keep moving.
Thank you. Any final questions from you, Karen? This has been amazing.
Well, you know, you both have said this over and over again, so I do hope our listeners understand that it's any kind of movement is better than no movement. I have an older brother who is diabetic, and during COVID, basically sat in his chair and was on the computer or reading or watching movies. And when things got lifted in California, all of a sudden he said he hurt. And I said, where do you hurt? And most of it, I think, was more mindful than anything else, because now he's back at working a part-time job. He is seeing friends. And so when you talk to him, you're not hearing about him hurting anymore. And it's because he's out there moving. And I find the same thing for myself. You know, I've been going through some things, and every once in a while you just say, I just want to sit here and not move. And then I find out 15, 20 minutes later, I'm hurting. You know, I got to get up. So it doesn't have to be long walks. It can be slow walks. It can be getting up and going and washing your dishes, anything to keep ourselves lubricated.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said. I have to agree. It does not have to be long, strenuous walks. It does not have to be aerobics. You know, I also found interesting in your book, another great tip was forest meditation or walking in the woods. And that's a great super ager. You go in, you could be with a buddy or you could be by yourself, but the nature out there is fascinating if we just be mindful of it. And I have to honestly say, other than the beach and the ocean, I wasn't really paying attention to what was going, maybe flowers. I love flowers, until I got into yoga, and yoga does the meditation. So the meditation led to, again, it all leads to something beautiful. And the forest meditation or walking through woods is just amazing. If you look up to the pine trees or the tall trees and you see birds, it's amazing. It's amazing. And that is a great super ager. It really is. Yeah. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all your kind words about my book. I so appreciate you reading it.
Of course.
Sharing the knowledge. Where can people find you? Because I know you are on social media and you have a website. Please tell us, and we'll also put in the show notes, but just so you hear it. And
sure. I appreciate that. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at My Yoga on the Canal. I have a website, www.healthyandhappywithcarole.com. My name, Carole, has an E at the end of it, so don't forget the E. And on my website, you can find all the classes that I offer, the other things that my studio offers, the the massage therapist and so on. And then to schedule for classes, it leads you to schedulicity.com. That's my scheduling platform. They're all links. One leads to another again. Instagram, yeah, that's that's all. But yeah, that's how they can find me, at My Yoga on the Canal, the full name.
Love
Great.
that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. It was wonderful meeting you both.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Carole. Have a great holiday season.
Thank
And
you.
Elise, we will be doing this again very soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.